Welcome to the Sportswire Spotlight. I'm Will Catterley. Joining me as always, Dylan Garner. Dylan, how's it going?
Doing very well. We are back here at Freeman yet another time, back here in the coach's office, but we got some state champions with us, which is fantastic. I mean, Freeman sweeping swimming titles just a couple weeks ago. Now we got them here with us.
I know, it's crazy. First couple weeks of spring sports, and we still haven't gotten through all the state champions from winter sports. We're approaching spring break, but to their credit, absolutely. Defending state champions this year for not just the guys' team, but the girls' team. Huge reasons why. Obviously, head coach joining us, Steven Gromling. We have Allison Bischoff and Nathan Szobota. They are individual state champs as well. Guys, appreciate you being part of the Sportswire Spotlight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Let's get the easy stuff out of the way. Coach, what was the feeling after all the races were done, all the diving was done, the points were tabulated? You knew you guys were state champs.
It was a big relief. I know. So when I started coaching here at Freeman, these two individuals were freshmen, and since the start of it, we've been pushing hard to get the state title. The boys were lucky enough to achieve that last year and repeat it again. The girls have been close, too close for the last 2 years prior to this one, being runners-up, and we were finally able to put one in the bag here for history for Freeman for the girls swim and dive team.
And Allison, from your perspective, being able to notch that one for the girls as a senior, what was that like for you and the other teammates?
I mean, it was just so surreal because knowing that all of the work we had put in the past years, coming up short 2 years in a row, it was really heartbreaking. And I think that just made us come back even stronger. Yeah. And so the moment that we all knew that we had won, I mean, it was just surreal.
Both of you, Allison and Nathan, I mean, winning your individual races and your medley relays were key to you guys finding the championship. Walk us through that, and I'll start with you, Nathan. Some of these, how big was it? Because I know in the meet, on the meet results or the list of events, that 200 medley is right off the first. How big is it to win that first race?
Oh, it's super important. It sets the tone for the meet, and so going in there before the race, we were all focused. Let's get our team hyped up. Let's get them ready to go, and we did that. So it was a lot of fun and a great way to start the night.
Yeah, and I think both of y'all on the girls and boys side began the meet with a win, ended the meet with a win, and both of y'all were involved. I think is what ends with the free relay at the end. Mm-hmm. So what is that environment like as it's wrapping up and then it's that last final relay for y'all?
I feel like we're all kind of in it together, and it brings us all together. It's like a huge bonding experience, and I mean, it's something that I definitely won't take for granted, and I will definitely remember going on.
Actually, it's kind of wild when you go to SwimRVA to cover it with our cameras. You got to get there early because you get the condensation. It's got to adapt to the environment of the pool area. But Coach, you said early on, and I wanted to piggyback off of what you said early, you got to see them as freshmen. You start as coach as freshmen. You've seen their journey as seniors. What's it been like as a coach watching their development?
Oh, it's been incredible to watch them, watch all the seniors that I had as freshmen grow to what they are now, where they're going to head off to the next few years of their lives. It saddens me to see them go, but I'm also so excited to see what they put down later in life in swimming or in just in general what they're going to do in their careers. It's a tearjerker for sure, but I look forward to seeing who comes in next year, who wants to try and fill their spot. Big steps to fill, but we'll miss them and we wish them the best.
It's easy as fans though when you're talking about sports and you see football, basketball, you can tell the difference between how good a basketball player is freshman to senior year, a quarterback freshman to senior year. What's the difference between a swimmer freshman to senior year?
A lot of it's personal growth too. A lot of it goes into it's a big mental thing. So when they get into the water in the morning for their practice and you're swimming under the water, you're talking to yourself. So it's a big mentally internal motivation that you have to have.
Hopefully not with your mouth open.
No, definitely not. However, just keeping that mindset to keep pushing when you're doing 50 100s repeat on 110 and you have to hold them for 102s, and it adds up real quick. And the demons inside want to tell you to stop, but you have your goals and you got to keep going.
Allison, how do you get the demons inside not to tell you to stop? How do you ignore the demons?
A lot of patience. It's definitely been a long time coming. Sometimes I'll just like start thinking about sometimes I think about the food that I'm having after practice, or just something else to take my mind off of it, or singing a song or something. Definitely just helping keep myself kind of loose and relaxed. That definitely helps.
You picture a big quarter pounder with cheese.
Oh yes.
Okay. What is
big
your go-to
glass of chocolate milk.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah. Nathan, I was curious about this, and Allison, I'm sure you have experience with this. And I mean, every swimmer I meet has been doing this for so long. I feel like to get to this level, it starts really young. Can you describe what that was like at the start and kind of the habits you have to build over time to maintain such a strict way of doing things to get better and get to where you are now?
It's definitely gradual. Yeah. So obviously when you start, it's once or twice a week at lessons. And then you just take it bit by bit, and every year you're adding a little bit more, and you learn how to adapt to that next bit. And all athletes know that when you're dedicated to your sport, you learn that the sacrifice is worth it, and it just becomes a habit. And how you structure your day and spend your time revolves around that.
I would assume that would make your one of the sacrifices, or one of the things you have to work with, or makes you more close knit as a group, is friendships. How do you structure your friend circle
in school and stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. You also have to make good grades. Yeah. There's all of that. How do you do it?
It's just really just a game of balance, and I find a lot of my energy and a lot of my motivation comes from the people I surround myself with. So my friends that I see every morning at swim practice, they help lift me up, keep me positive, and it sets the tone for the rest of my day or the rest of my week. And that's one of the main things that helps me stay motivated towards my goals and stay disciplined, knowing that other people are in it with me and are doing the same thing, that I'm not alone.
And I'm glad you brought up kind of the friendships, because you're also going, when you have a Freeman swimming jersey on as opposed to Nova, I'm sure you're facing a lot of people that you're really good friends with over at Godwin or Deep Run or wherever. And then by the time the Class 5 championships come up, you're facing them in the next lane. Do you have relationships like that carry, cross school, but within your club?
Yeah, so one of my best friends, shout out Kate Hodem, at Godwin, we have been best friends for forever. We've grown up through Nova. And so seeing her on that other team, we do still keep that competitive aspect, but it's very friendly. And we kind of just push each other to be the best versions of ourselves, despite being on opposite teams.
Nathan, how about you?
Yeah. There's honestly so many people that we swim, but it's really fun, and to show a different part of ourselves. Racing for our schools is fun. Because we race every morning, but when you get to put on the Freeman cap and represent Freeman, it feels a little different. So it's something we definitely enjoy a lot.
So for the people who don't know, the people who don't know, okay, Nathan, 200 medley relay champ, 200 freestyle, 500 freestyle champ, 200 free champ, and then we're going with Allison. You got the 200 medley relay champ, 200 freestyle champ, 100 butterfly, 200 free. My goodness. I mean, the list goes on and on. Just to let everyone know, if we forgot to tell you what they're champions in.
A lot of titles.
But it's also brought you to the point where both of you were talking about wearing the Freeman jersey. You'll be wearing UVA jerseys next year. Tell us about that.
Yes, I'm super excited about it. It's definitely bittersweet ending my Freeman swimming career, but I know that a lot of those values that have been instilled in me here at Freeman are going to be reinforced at UVA. So that's one of the things that makes me really excited about it, is that team atmosphere and everything is going to be continued at the next level.
Awesome. Nathan?
Yeah, I'm very excited for UVA and to take the next step. I've really enjoyed it here. But I'm very excited to train with some new people and see what the next level of swimming looks like.
And Steven, on your perspective, seeing them for the last 4 years and now seeing what their next steps are going to be, especially at UVA, which is, if y'all don't know college swimming, I would be hard pressed to figure out. It's like Texas, Cal, UVA, it's a short list, yes. And so when you hear Allison say, I want to take what I learned from Freeman swimming to UVA, what are those things you hope that they take from this program to their next level?
My biggest thing was creating a family here. They swim me around with Nova. They get a lot of training in over there, and they have their own family dynamic over there. But I wanted to create Freeman like it was essentially UVA or other big school, college universities where they have that dedicated, hard, top tier training, but you have that family orientation with it. And I hope that they bring that to UVA, and I know they will, without a doubt. And I can't wait to just drive down the road and go watch them swim.
Absolutely.
I look forward to that big time.
Y'all have added on divers within the past couple of years. Is that correct?
Yes, this is our second year.
Second year. And so can you, in the second half of our podcast here, I don't know if we mentioned that at the top, we'll be with one of your divers and one of his diving coaches, which is going to be awesome. How crucial is that aspect of your team's been added in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, we were fortunate enough to add diving into the sport. It is swimming and diving, like similar to track and field. However, though, we saw a negative aspect in our program where we didn't have divers and we were missing out on valuable points. However, though, we also were missing out on being able to give student athletes the ability to dive.
Right.
So we looked into different ways of doing so, and we were fortunate enough to partner up with DiveRVA to work with them, to coach our kids, and to get them into meets and so forth. So we work in tandem with DiveRVA and some of their coaches to do so. And last year we did really well at states. This year we did awesome. Well, we put all 4 divers that we were eligible to send all on the podium in the top 8.
And we will have plenty more diving questions to ask in the second half of that. But I just wanted to throw it to you as the head coach because, I mean, like I said, I read the sheet and it's like, 4 different scorers show up, and that's how many points? 20, 30 points that just show up that you just did not have access to.
Yeah, well, we got 50 points basically from diving alone from the 4 boys taking top 8.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
Second, 4th, 5th, and 8th.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's really impressive. Superstitions, though. Every athlete has it, so we're gonna do this real quick. Allison, any superstition, any ritual, like pre-meet ritual that you do?
I've more of like a pre-race ritual. Like I always do my little like dynamic warm-up. I'll like shake out my arms, shake out my legs, do some jumps. I like to like make sure my goggles are all set. So that's my main sort of pre-race ritual.
What happens if the goggles aren't all set?
Then I've had many times where I dive in and my goggles just like pop off my face a little bit, and fill up with water. So that's really uncomfortable. So I just like I always press them. Even after I get up on the blocks, I'll press my goggles one last time.
Is that your greatest? Is there like a greatest fear to that? Before you just jump in?
Probably like my greatest fear is probably like my goggles like falling all the way down to my neck.
Yikes!
I have a follow-up question related to fear. Nathan, you've accomplished a lot in your career. One thing that I saw you've accomplished, you are a gold medalist in open water racing, which I was like, when I read that, I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know they did that, first of all. I've been swimming in pools for 10 years. Let me try a hand at open water racing. Where does that come from, and what was that experience like for you? Is that scary?
So I had a coach freshman year, at the end of freshman year at Nova, Norm Wright. He's a coach at Ohio State now. He said to me, he was like, you're swimming really well in these longer events in the pool. I really want you to try open water. And he's a really good open water coach. And so he taught me, and we had 2 weeks from our last pool meet to my first open water competition ever. And we were just doing tons of training on this is how you swim it. This is how you look, because you don't have a black line on the bottom of the pool. But it's a lot of fun to race. It's different that there's no lane line, so you're up there, arms swinging at other competitors, sharks coming at you.
I was gonna say, how do you avoid the aquatic marine life? But you have to keep your endurance up. How do you avoid like turtles? Did you ever run into anything like, I got to turn around? Here's a manatee, or what happened?
So I've never run into a shark. I've seen some turtles or some stingrays on the bottom, but you're on the top of the water, so honestly, your biggest worry is jellyfish.
Oh,
because there's no way to see those.
Kind of.
And Allison, I had one more question for you. You go into UVA, and I mentioned how prestigious UVA's swimming program is. What's that going to be for you entering a program where not only are they winning championships, not only are they coached by one of the best coaches in the nation, you're going to be in the same place, same times that Olympians have been stepping and swimming in for the last several years. What is that experience going to be like for you?
I feel like it's just going to give me a lot of motivation, and it kind of shows me just like how much opportunity there is there, and that like really like I have not reached my potential yet, that there's so much more there for me, and that makes me really excited to be there swimming alongside them, knowing that maybe that could be me someday.
And Freeman is definitely extremely excited to be state champion in guys and girls swim and dive this year. And Coach, best of luck to you next year, going for repeat back to back.
Hopefully.
And Nathan and Allison, we're going to be watching your careers greatly with fantastic interest. UVA got a steal here at Douglas Freeman. We're not done though. As Dylan said, we're going to talk the dive part of swim and dive when we get back. Welcome back to the Sportswire Spotlight. Once again, it is me, it is Dylan Garner, and we are talking the dive segment, which I think is pretty cool how it's evolved into not just swim, but swim and dive here at Douglas Freeman, really kind of across the county and across the region and, of course, the state. But a big reason why Freeman won states this year, guys and girls, was swim and the dive part of that. And one of the reasons why, Joe O'Connor graduated back in 2018. He is the
old man. Huh?
I know, the old man on campus. He's the dive coach, and finishing second in states, Blaine Nelson joining us as well. Guys, appreciate you being part of the Sportswear Spotlight.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Let's get right into it because we talked a little bit about the dive component and just about your numbers. Second place, fourth, fifth, eighth. You're teaching these guys. You're getting these guys to practice. You're getting these guys to prepare for a moment like this. What were your thoughts after that kind of performance from your guys at States?
I thought it was awesome. They really showed up. Coming into the meet, we've definitely had a lot of hurdles this season with water outages and school being closed. So for them to really push through the entire season just to get to that point and perform the way they did was awesome.
How in the world? How did the water outage?
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't either. How did but you need water.
Yeah.
How did well, the water outage obviously meant that everything was closed.
Correct.
How else did that affect you guys?
It honestly, of course, the schools were closed, so we were unable to practice. But even in the gym, like, we weren't able to have practice there. Everybody else was, on top of their schoolwork from home.
Right.
Kind of just stressed as a whole, like coaches and students align.
And there's no such thing as asynchronous diving. I'm looking at my list. I don't see anything.
No, there's not diving on Zoom, but I think everyone had a good spirit about it throughout the entire season and pushed through.
Blaine, for you, second place in states, which is fantastic. Was that what was the goal when you started the season, and how did it feel like, ending on the podium, for Freeman in such a huge championship victory?
The goal for me this year was really to just get on that podium because this would be my second season ever diving. And last year I started off pretty strong in states, but then I had a couple mess ups and it dropped me pretty far down. So this year I really wanted to take advantage of my practice. I've been practicing all summer and then through the preseason, and I really wanted to get on that podium this year. That was my main goal.
How did this start for you, and how long ago was that?
So for me, it was really, I could jump off the board and I could throw a double. And so one of my buddies told me that our Freeman swim team was starting a dive team. He was like, you should do it. And I don't know, I got baseball. I got to focus on baseball and golf and all that other stuff. But then I was like, you know what, why not give it a shot? High school was only 4 years, so I wanted to try something out. So I picked up diving.
What does it take to be a good diver? Like, what are the secrets to the trade?
Diving's a lot, really. There's a lot of small things that go into diving, and diving teaches you a lot about those small things, meaning you practice for everything to be perfect, but nothing is ever going to be perfect. So you have to really just take the time to practice all these little things and then take the small steps to help you get better each day.
Joe, you used to dive yourself, hence being a dive coach yourself. However, when you did it, you weren't winning VHSL trophies. Now you get to coach students to get something that you could never achieve. Mm-hmm. What's that like for you?
It's really rewarding. I remember being here, and I want to say the swim team started while I was still in high school. Mm-hmm. And I would always joke with the AD about diving because so many of my classmates also dove in the summer leagues around Richmond and Henrico. And we had quite a few at Freeman. And now being able to coach kids who also dive in those summer leagues and have the opportunity to dive in high school is really, really cool.
How did you and Steven kind of come together and be like, this is what we're going to need to do for this to work, and this is what we're going to have to do for us to win a state title?
I feel like
Maybe it was organic. I don't know.
I would argue it was pretty organic. We kind of took it and ran with what we had and worked out kinks along the way, and it ended up working out, obviously.
We're in a school, so we're going to get those bells sometimes. When did you know that Blaine could be as good as he was this year?
Probably the first practice last year.
Why?
Early.
There's just something about diving where you see someone on the board and you see them go off, and even if it's not a good dive inherently, you can tell that there's something there, whether it needs to be worked out or it'll come tomorrow. I don't know really how to describe it, but there's just something where you see them and you know.
Diving is such a unique thing, and you mentioned these very small things. How does someone coach you through such minute adjustments and things to be able to execute a sport where you have to be as perfect as you possibly can, like, you know, in a really critical time?
I would say they do multiple drills that work on small specific things, and then you are allowed to implement those things on the boards. So you'll start out on the mat, and the mat is kind of springy. So they'll have you work on your approaches on the mat, and then they'll have you work on moving your arms to jump and how to squeeze your body when you're up in the air and how to get your body into that perfect form that you can do all those tricks and stuff in the air.
So are you like literally tightening up your core as you're heading down to the water?
You're tightening up your core when you step on the board.
Oh,
you have to be
before that.
There's the coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to, at all times, you really have to be tight because they judge you from the second you start walking on that board to take your jump. And if you're standing back to do a back jump, you have to be standing straight and standing tight because they judge almost everything you do.
Joe, how many times have you told him to stand up straight? Is that just like is that a constant?
That's why every swimmer and diver has perfect posture.
Yeah.
I've finally figured it out.
I wouldn't say that often. I feel like, especially towards the end of practice when we get tired, maybe a few times. But I feel like Blaine usually has a pretty good posture in his approach.
I mean, he's second place state,
Yeah.
so he's got to have it going on.
And I mean, when you look at the list and we keep going over it, second, fourth, fifth, eighth. Blaine, tell me about a couple of your teammates. I mean, obviously it wasn't just you, but to have 4 in the top 10, 3 in the top 5, that's remarkable.
Yeah, it was really exciting to watch all the guys because you dive with them during the whole practice season, and then you at state together. You're competing against each other, but you're still a team at heart. And it was really amazing to watch how we all hyped each other up. We would finish our dive and then all go back to our corner and all talk to each other.
You think about pole vaulting, I feel like is almost like the diving of that sport. How would you compare those two things? Because obviously you did both. Do you think there's a lot of overlap in the skills, and do you think there's an overlap in the way that they kind of impact the team as maybe ones that might get forgotten by some people but are really crucial parts to a giant winning team?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of parallels. A lot of pole vaulters come from diving.
Yeah.
And even the takeoff in pole vaulting is so similar to the hurdle in diving. And it is one of those sneaky events where if you have a really good pole vaulter, they're going to bring in a ton of points. And everyone loves to watch it.
Right.
Where swimming, you're swimming back and forth. Right. Everyone loves to watch diving. Mm-hmm. So I think there's kind of like a acrobatic aspect of it that everyone loves to watch, but it also is a sneaky way to get more points that a lot of people tend to overlook.
Well, Blaine, how about this? Because you're transitioned into now baseball. Your game started 7 p.m. By the way, as of this recording, Freeman Maverick baseball 4-0, looking great. Godwin looking great. Can't wait till I get to see those two in action again. 'Tis the season. But you dive for state championships at 7, 8 in the morning. You play baseball 7:30 at night. How have you made the transition to that?
I would say it's a lot easier with baseball getting to go into it at night because you wake up tight in the morning and then you got to stretch out everything before the dive meet. So I would say it's a lot easier going into baseball knowing that I can be stretched out during the whole day rather than just waking up and having to get into cold water.
I think you also mentioned you're a golfer in fall, which it's, you can maybe draw a line between golf and baseball, but I think if someone said you use your baseball swing in golf or vice versa, they'd be like, you're probably not, too set. We were talking about Joe and diving and, pole vault. It's very different in certain ways, but it's using a lot of the same things. Those three sports might not always. So how do those things all come together for you, and how do you focus on all of them equally?
Underwater golf.
Yeah. That's
I think it really all comes down to dedication and how much you want to put forth towards that sport. And for me, what I really try to do is split up my time in between each sport. So when it's the golf season, I tend to focus on golf, make sure I can just get my golf game down, sticking it on the green each time. Then when it comes, but I'm still working on dive a little bit in that time, so that way I can prepare myself going into that season. So never really going into a season rusty, I would say.
Of the three, golf, baseball, dive, which would you prefer to, maybe it's something you can't answer yet, to go after maybe at the next level?
For me, I really want to pursue diving. Diving, like I said, I started 2 years ago, but I really just fell in love with the sport. And one thing I really liked about diving was the community, because we practice with all the other schools we dive against, but it all feels like one big family. And I really want to continue diving next year, and it's one of my big goals. I'm really trying to dive at the West Virginia University. That's a big goal of mine, and I'm really hoping that works out.
What would you say to somebody who might be interested in diving? Like, what would you tell them?
Do it. Try it. Don't ever pass up an opportunity. If you get the opportunity to dive, I really think you should try it. It's a very mental sport, but at the same time, it teaches you a lot about life too. Just it teaches life lessons, but it's a really good sport to just have in the back of your arsenal.
Joe, what's the first thing you say to a kid who wants to dive? What do you tell them? Or what do you teach them first, I guess?
First thing I teach them would definitely be a hurdle, just how to get off the board safely and get away from the board.
Yeah, that's kind of important. I can see that.
Yeah.
And Joe, he mentioned the kind of, this is a recent thing still for Blaine, 2 years ago. And now he's like, I hope I can do this at D1 level. How does that all feel for you as someone that gets to influence that after you graduated?
It's definitely really, really gratifying. Seeing Blaine start 2 years ago and having the opportunity that I didn't have when I was here, and being a part of that and having him excel the way that he has definitely been really, really gratifying.
And we don't talk about injuries very often, but if we are going to, and I'm a swimmer or a diver, the last thing I probably want to hurt, one of the last things, is my ear. You did it.
Yeah,
what happened, and how'd you overcome that?
So what happened was we had just had our first meet, and I was feeling pretty happy I could place first in that meet, and so I was feeling pretty happy going into that practice the next morning, and I was doing a back dive. And I got up there, I do back diving straight, so I don't tuck, I don't pike or anything like that. I just go up, and then I go in. And I went up, everything felt right, I went in right, and then I just felt like just a snap. It just felt like my eardrum just popped, and I was at the bottom of the pool, and everything, I was just dizzy, it hurt. And so I get out of the water, and it was kind of a struggle to get out of the water, but I got out, and then I was out of the water for about 2 months.
Oh.
And that was one of my biggest, I would say that was just a big problem for me, because I really wanted that goal of getting on the podium, and being out of the water for 2 months is a lot of practice you're missing, because water is, I would want to say, the most important part of practice, because we get about 25% in the pool and 75% on dry land. So I really just had to grind in dry land. That way once I had the opportunity to get back in the pool, I could excel and still be at where I am now.
And we've talked about how quickly the winter season goes by. I feel like in all these sports where it's like, you get through winter break and then you're like, okay, you got a month and a half, 2 months left, depending on what sport it is. So 2 months out of like a season that's like roughly 3 months tops is, to be able to like see the end of that and excel at the end, that had to have been a really great moment for you. What was that like celebrating with your teammates there at the end?
It was just surreal. It was a great feeling. I've never really felt as proud of myself as I did in that moment, knowing that I came from literally the bottom, having to now wear an eardrum protector every single time I go in the water, and I can't forget that. And it was a really proud moment for myself. I was very happy that I had worked my way all the way back up to the top.
We like the stories of people who overcome stuff, no matter how big or small it may seem. It is huge, and that obviously is a big one. Best of luck to you. Hopefully you get into the West Virginia program, and hopefully you can dive with them. That would be great. Big 12 diving. Here we come. And Joe, thank you so much. And I'm sure, like you said earlier, very rewarding for you to come back, give back to something that you loved, and now it's part of VHSL, and now it's part of the swim and dive program here at Douglas Freeman.
Of course.
Appreciate you guys being part of the Sportswire Spotlight.
Thank you.
Thank you.